A question I get a lot, whether it's from our staff or from different areas, and it's addressing a problem I think we all experience in every area that we have around the church, and that is this. How many of you feel like there's enough people working in your department? Anybody feel that way? Like you feel nobody feels that way. Natasha said that, and that's always the area that people say, like, look at all the people they have. It's still not enough. Someone was telling me the other day, they were complaining about Ben. Sorry, Ben, wherever you're at. They were like, this Ben just went and took this person. And I said, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm literally, there's not enough kids workers. There's just not, right? There's not enough kids workers. There's not enough parking. There's not enough ushers. There's not even enough production and worship. There's not enough anything, right? And so everybody can see that problem, right? And the people love to point out obvious problems like, we don't have enough people. Thank you. Like, it doesn't take a leader to point out a problem that everybody can see, right? But how do we address that problem? How do we address that we don't have enough safety, or we don't have enough this, or we don't have enough that? I thought, let's go to Scripture. Let's go to Scripture and see, how did Jesus deal with, because you got to think about Jesus. He comes to the earth. He knows he has about a 3.5-year window to do his whole ministry, to start this thing. Like, if he don't start that thing, we're not here today. He has 3.5 years. And it's not like God sent some other incarnate angels to the earth to hey, if I was God, I'd be like, I'm going to send 12 people with Jesus to incarnate with him to be his helpers. No, he has to go and find people. He has to go and find them. So if you look at this timeline of Jesus, he goes through about 30 years of obscurity. Like, you don't even know who he is. Nobody knows. And he goes to the desert one day. You follow his life story. He goes to the desert one day, and he goes there to fast and pray for 40 days because he knows he's about to start his ministry. So the first thing he does before he goes to try to fulfill his purpose, the reason he's there, is he prays. And you would think, though it doesn't specifically say this, he probably, whatever the next thing that Jesus did after he prays, that's probably what he was praying for, right? So he goes there, he's tempted of the devil, he wins, he beats the devil, he resists the temptation, and he goes out, and what the very first thing he does? He goes and recruits some people. He goes and recruits some people. And I think it's interesting how Jesus recruits them. There's a couple passages that talk about this. I can't read all of them because it's so much. John 1 gives us a little bit of an interesting thing here. It says, the next day, he gets baptized. John's there with his 2 disciples. And Jesus said, they saw Jesus. They're like, hey, look, they heard him. They just got up and followed Jesus. So Jesus actually didn't even recruit these guys. He got somebody else's recruits. That's Jesus, Son of God, all in power, God incarnate. Okay? Then it keeps on going. He said, what do you want? And they're just like, man, we just want to follow you, blah, blah, blah. And then it says, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, was one of the 2 who had heard about it. They followed Jesus. The first thing Andrew did was find his brother and tell him. So one of the people, this guy actually went out and found somebody else to go follow Jesus. That's one of Jesus' 12 disciples. He didn't even recruit him. One of the other guys recruited him. So we always have this tension. It's like, well, Pastor, if you would just get up and make an announcement that we need some more kids workers, that's what, and some more greeters and some more parking lot people, that's how we would get them. If you would get up and do that. There's nowhere that Jesus ever got up and said, hey, guys, I have an opening, and I'd like to, if you want to see me after service, see me after the Beatitudes, and I'll actually get you signed up. We'll get you, you go to the Next Steps class, and we'll get you signed up. No, he went up to people, look at this. We go back to Matthew, gives a great thing. Jesus walking beside the sea, Matthew 4. He said he's walking beside the Sea of Galilee. He saw 2 brothers. This is, again, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. This is how he actually got those guys. They were just doing their thing. They were fishing. And he just goes up to him and he says this, come, follow me, and I will send you out for fishing for people. Where's the question in that? He said, hey, what are y'all doing? Come. I see you fishing. He made it applicable to them. I see you fishing for fish. I'm about to make you a fisherman. He gives them a vision. And it's super simple. He doesn't say, well, here's our 4 points of our vision, and let me tell you our 5 values, and then our mission statement is here, and here's how you got to go. No, he just goes up and says, hey, come follow me. There's no question there. He understands that. And again, he calls them. They immediately leave their boats. They leave their father. They follow him. You just see that he recruited by vision. He didn't say, if we don't get some disciples in here, we're going to have to shut this thing down and tell kids they can't come in. And we're not going to have coffee. And the cars might be crashing in the parking lot. But that's how we want to do it, right? Like if we don't get another camera operator, like the camera's going to be all shaky. No, they had vision. They recruited by vision. He recruited using other people's relationships. So how can you help? We're all recruiters. We're all a part of this. We're all a part using our relationships to bring in people. What doesn't work is announcements saying, hey, we need some folks. It doesn't work. In fact, it actually works against you. I know that, but if people knew, if they only knew. Yeah, right. That's not true. You know what also doesn't work? Jesus didn't come up to him and say, there's another time where he's trying to recruit a guy. A guy comes up to him and is like, hey, man, I'd like to be a part of your team. He says, hey, sell everything you have and come and follow me. He didn't say, hey, it's going to be so easy. We're going to make it as easy as we can for you. He says, no, man, the cost that's going to cost you is everything. Jesus didn't lower the bar to try to get more people in. And I hear that all the time, and I understand the heart behind it, but it doesn't line up with Scripture. Lowering the bar is only a win in limbo. That's the only game, it's the win. Everything else, we win by raising the bar. So that's just a couple there. It's an interesting, Jesus saw the potential. In Matthew 9:9, Jesus went on from there. He saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. He goes up to him and he says, follow me. That's it. That's all the words were recorded by Matthew. I'm like, Matthew, can you at least tell us the strategy that Jesus just went up and said, follow me, and just walked off? And it says, Matthew got up and followed him. He's like, okay. That's Matthew's account of how Matthew was called. It's interesting here. Disciples recruited other disciples. Philip said to him, follow me. Philip, like Andrew and Peter, was from the town of Bethsaida. Philip found Nathanael. He actually went and found someone else, Nathanael, and he told him, we found the one Moses wrote about in the law, about who the prophet, Jesus. He goes, here's Jesus. And then Nathanael has this famous saying like, Nazareth, can anything good come from there? And then he says, come on and see. Come and see. So what do you do when people have objections? Hey, man, come see. Come see. So how can we practically do this? Number one, we need to be praying. It's one of the only things that Jesus actually addressed an actual prayer for a need was to pray for those. He said, pray the Lord of the harvest that he would thrust forth laborers into the harvest. It's one of the only prayers of prayer that he says specifically, this is what you should pray. So we need to pray. We all need to be praying. We all are praying for that group of laborers to come into harvest. Because if we look around town, if you've been to HEB, the harvest is plentiful. You've been to Walmart, the harvest is plentiful. You go to the Riverwalk, the harvest is plentiful. Go, Lock and it's plentiful. Drive Alamo Ranch, now it's Petranco down where we live. It's just, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. So he said, pray the Lord of the harvest that he would thrust forth laborers. He didn't say like, oh, please. That's violent language. Thrust forth laborers. Come on. So we got to be in prayer for that. We always have to be on the outlook for that, for like, who do we know that we can bring along with us? And understand that we're casting vision. Come, we're going to make you a fisher of men. Come, we're casting vision. That's what Jesus did. He goes, come, follow me. And so that is just a little bit of a snippet of how Jesus recruited others, and not just my encouragement to you. It's all of our job. It's every one of our job to help people find their next step. And obviously we have a process, and they have to go through next steps, and that's all about safety and knowing those who labor among us. That's what we're all doing. We're all a part of that team, helping people take their next step.